And hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to say welcome to um, the second season of our Little Leaders Career Exploration Series, which began during the pandemic in 2020. And we are actually coming back for a full season this year. And I'm super excited. The last time that we ran this series, we started off with education because education is very close to my heart as an educator. And so we are going to start this series off again with education. And we will get started with introductions, actually. So I'm going to ask in this order. Lauren is going to introduce herself as my co host. Then Heather, tell us who you are with Claygy or Gigi, and then Dr. Smalls.
Hi, my name is Lauren, and I'm 10 years old, and I am in the fifth grade, and I am a part of Little Hands Big Hearts.
Awesome sauce. Hey, Lauren. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Cooper. I am a K-12 educator, consultant, professional development facilitator, you name it. Have many tools in my tool belt, but I've been an educator for about 10 years now. Well, I'm sorry, about 15, let me clarify. And have had an opportunity to not just teach elementary students, but currently working with high school students and preparing our future for what's to come. So super excited to be here. Thank you, Dr. Nikki, for having me, and I look forward to our time together.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wikleji Gigi Moise. I am an executive director for a nonprofit literacy initiative here in Hillsborough County, Tampa, Florida. Hi, Dr. Nikki. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Heather. And Dr. Smiles. It's just a pleasure to be here. I lead a group of diverse workers who serve students within Hillsborough County who are reading below level and are at risk of school failure. I also work internationally doing some education consulting in Haiti, Panama, and Canada. We serve students in the Caribbean, in Haiti, in different schools and different areas just to empower them to be able to complete their education. The educational system there is very different than here. So sometimes finances are a great impact in them being able to finalize their education. I'm also a grant writer and a consultant and an assistant pastor at my local church here that I have been a part of for about 20 years.
And I guess I'll round it out. I'm Tavi Small. I serve at the University of Tennessee. First of all, let me say, Dr. Nikki, thank you for having me again. This is my second go round with this series, and so I'm excited to share a little bit about my experience with our little people. Lauren, thank you for being co-host today. It takes a lot of bravery to do this and to do something like this in front of your peers. So thank you. And then Heather and Gigi, I look forward to sharing this time with you. So I serve as Vice Chancellor for Access and Engagement at the University of Tennessee. Have about 38,000 students, statewide presence across the state of Tennessee. And really my role is really fourfold. Number one is all of our compliance stuff reports up through me. So all of our Title 6, 7, ADA, equal employment, all of those units report up through me. I'm responsible for all of our community engagement and outreach. So taking the expertise that we have at the University of Tennessee and spreading that out into the state of Tennessee so that we can uplift communities and change lives. We have a unit that really it's called Office of Flagship Communities, and what its job is to really work in the K-8 space, and so working with elementary and middle school students so that they're prepared for high school and then prepared to then come to the University of Tennessee and become scholars. And students who do that program, the flagship schools, we will give them a full tuition scholarship for tuition and fees if you graduate from a flagship high school in Tennessee. And then the last piece really of my role is about culture and climate. And so really working with our affinity groups, working with university governance bodies, whether it's faculty senate, SGA, all of that to make sure that we create a culture and climate where everybody feels like they matter and that they belong. And so, really, it's about a lot of cultural work. So, I often tell people I'm the chief culture and climate officer and the chief community outreach and engagement officer for the university. So, thanks for having us.
Of course. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So, I just want to highlight Dr. Small really quickly. When we first did this series back in September of 2020, so it's been 4 years officially this month, he and I were not doctors at that moment, at that time. He was in school for to become Dr. Small, and I was nowhere near even beginning a program. However, the conversations that we had before we started the segment really inspired me. And so I found myself, okay, just researching and all of this. And about 2 months after that, I was accepted into a program. And since then, both of us have graduated. So I'm excited to highlight that one of our alumni, in addition to myself, has completed their doctoral program, and he is doing remarkable things around the world. We'll get into that a little bit later about his travels. Many of you know that I go to Kenya for the past 3 years. I go to Kenya to do work in education, partially, and he has gone to East Africa as well, to Tanzania, I believe. So he's going to talk about it and share about that in a little bit. All right. So as we get started, I would like to share what the mission statement is for Little Hands Big Hearts. The mission state of Little Hands Big Hearts Little People Service Organization is to develop little people, into servant leaders who think beyond themselves for the greater good through explicit and intentional opportunities for character development, selfless service to others, and community-based volunteering. We actually had an excellent serve day yesterday down at the Claire White Mission here in Jacksonville. We were able to serve about 140 people, toiletries, clothing, shoes, socks, snacks, all kinds of items. So the heart of what we do is to develop the current generation of little people and not so little people, teenagers, into the next generation of servant leaders, learning how to love people when they lead by love, learning how to lead with respect and dignity for all people. So that is what we espouse. The purpose of this series is for us to introduce families to a myriad of possibilities as far as career paths and career choices for their children, right? So a lot of times, I feel especially for children of color, they get pigeonholed into um, certain paths, certain career paths, and the world is so big, and their faces and their brains and their intelligence is needed in every arena. It's time for us to show up more. So that is the purpose of this series. All right. So as we get started, we have some questions that we're going to kind of go through and just hear everyone's take on how they have dove into education and where the field of education has taken them professionally. All right. So as we get started, I want to know, what were some of the hobbies that each of you engaged in as a child that contributed to you becoming who you are today, if any? Because I know education is a field that some of us, we think we stumble on, because it's the path that anybody can kind of get into, So if there were any things that prepared you for this, your role in education now, what were they? And feel free to jump in, whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it. So for me, I felt I've like been teaching my whole life, right? Even as a young kid, been the Sunday school teacher at my church. So education has been something that I love, I enjoy, and had a chance to really experience at a young age. I think some of the hobbies I had over time was just, I don't know, really just being a kid, right? So learning how to listen, always wanting to understand why, um, asking lots of questions, been very inquisitive, but trying to figure out what the connections between one thing and the next, and how they go together. So understanding those relationships. So being an inquisitive kid has always just been a part of who I am. And so I would say there wasn't a specific hobby necessarily that led to education, but I did all of the things. So learning, being on sports teams, so playing all the sports that I could. So learning how to be a team player, collaborate with others, how to advocate, learning how to stand up for those who might not have the biggest voice in the room. You do that when you learn to work well with people. So not necessarily a fun thing, but I just enjoyed being around people and learning from others all my life.
Heather, as I think about my journey, it's interesting. Like, so I love to learn and I love to read. And when I went to college, I was what we call a first generation college student. So nobody in my family had ever gone to college, and so in my immediate family, and so I was really one of the first to do it. And I'll never forget this. One of my teachers, Mr. Marvin Davis in high school, he said this to me one day, and it stuck with me. He said, Tyvee, sometimes you say the most brilliant thing I've ever heard, followed by the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And let me tell you what happened. Being in the small town, being where I was from, learning wasn't cool, right? It wasn't cool to engage in education and to engage in school. And so what I would find myself doing is when my love of learning would well up and I would, get engaged in school, my boys would go, "Why are you sounding smart?" And so then I had to do something to counteract that so that I didn't sound smart, right? And so I remember that. And when I went to college, that was my opportunity to reinvent myself, right? That was my opportunity to say, you know what? I can, because I was around people like Dr. Nikki, right? Who were smart, who were ambitious. And I'm like, wow, I could, like, everybody here wants to do well. And when I got to college, that was my opportunity to reinvent myself. And so I got really, really involved in college. And that's when I found higher ed as my profession, right? So it really stemmed from that high school experience to going to college, reinventing myself, to then thinking, wow, this is a profession, because many of the people who had helped me become successful in college, I wanted to be like them. From Dr. Wright, who recruited me to the university, or Reba Garth, who led the student support services program, which I was a part of. And I just knew that I wanted to do that for other people because they did that for me. And so that's how my higher ed career got started. And then that's how I eventually landed, came to this role at Tennessee. And so it's interesting how even those aha moments in elementary, middle, and high school still contributed to my profession today. So it's a pretty interesting journey, but one that I wouldn't trade for the world.
I love that. Go ahead, Gigi.
Much like Dr. Smalls, I was an avid reader. And so I find it interesting that I now lead a literacy program. Not only was I an avid reader, my mother was an educator back home in Haiti. I never thought education was the path that I was going to take. I was going to go to the Foreign Service. There were so many other things that I had plans to do. But I did start out in higher ed, in admissions, for a season, and then went into working full-time ministry, and then coming into education as a leader of the nonprofit. Literacy has always been pivotal to me because of some of the teachers I had. I struggled kindergarten, first grade, although being born here, first grade, I was held back because of language, because we didn't speak as much English at home. By the third grade, I was gifted in advance, graduated top of my class in high school and in college as well. And so literacy has always been near and dear to my heart. And being that we serve here in Hillsborough County a large portion of migrant students, and we're serving students who are reading below level, I find it just a blessing to be able to empower these parents to say, listen, I was once where your child was, and look at where I am now. It is a matter of you being engaged as a parent, you being involved in your child's education, advocating for that student, ensuring that what is being said about that student is correct, and giving them the right environment to learn. So allowing them to read more and be more interactive. I know we live in a technological age where students are on iPads and laptops and different things, but there's such a strength in building strong readers and them comprehending and different things. And that takes time. And so I didn't stumble into education. I think it was always God's plan. It was just something that I had not realized when I look at the path that my life has gone through. And still to this day, I am very much an avid reader. I love knowledge. I love education. I love learning. And I think it's the key for our students and our children and our nieces and nephews, the step for them to be able to step into their purpose.
So good. I love that. So for me, education, I agree with what Gigi said. You know, I think it was a part of the plan all along because I was told at a very young age that I was gonna be a teacher, and I did not go for education in undergrad. I was like, I'm not finna mess nobody kids up. You know, it was when, we were doing what was it, FCAT, Heather? I think it was FCAT in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
FCAT,
and
Florida rights, all of that.
yeah, all of this literacy stuff and language, and kids are failing. And I was like, I will not be a part of failing someone's child. I will not do that. So I went a whole undergrad program for international studies, and I loved it. Like I hands down loved it. But the plan of God prevailed for my life because my master's brought me right back to education. And not only did it bring me to education, it brought me to special education and struggling readers and children who were identified as having disabilities in reading and for learning. And when I say scared, I was like, Lord, please don't let me mess anybody's kid up. Please, 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 But I know it was purpose because in reading is where I saw the most gains every single year that I was in the classroom. 11 years, I got the most gains in the area of reading. And that's not because the kids didn't grow in math. They grew excellently in math. I just got excellent growth in reading. And so definitely think it was a purpose thing and super excited. To this day, I'm not in the classroom anymore, but you will never remove education from a real educator, someone who is walking in their purpose. I don't care where you go, what you do, some kind of how you're going to veer back towards what that passion is and what that purpose is. So thank you all for sharing that. Dr. Small, did you want to jump in and say anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Lauren, you have a question? What's your question, sugar?
My question is, do you ever think that you
become an educator?
That you should be educated, become.
Lauren, you said the question is, did I ever think I'd become an educator?
Yes.
I don't know. So my goal in life was to be a lawyer. And to be honest with you, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But there is passion. So, it's these things where I was talking to a friend the other day about their career, what they want to do with their career. And I said, the thing that you feel like you are put on this earth to do, that's what you should be doing. And I do feel like this is my purpose in life, right? This is my God-given purpose to impact these young people and to help change lives and ultimately change nations and generations, right? And so while I didn't think this was what I would do, I know that I'm purposed to do this. I know that this is what I'm called to do. And I get up every morning grateful and thankful that I get to do this work. And that's how I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And that's different for everybody, Lauren. Education is it for me. I actually left education for a little bit and went into government and politics. Absolutely loved that job. I worked for the mayor of West Palm Beach, Lois Frankel, who's now in the U.S. House up in D.C. I learned a whole lot. I did a whole lot of work, but even in working for the mayor, I was her education coordinator. So I was still doing education stuff while working for local government. And that's when I knew, man, there's something about this work that I'm called to do. There's some purpose in it for me. And, yesterday, Lauren, I'm wearing my Tennessee stuff here. We had a big football game which we won. And we had an alumni reception. And kids that kids, they're now adults who I worked with. I started at Tennessee in 2007, and they were coming up one after the other, just talking about the impact that I helped make. And I played a small part in their success. But some are medical doctors, some are teachers and business owners and corporate executives. And to see that just reassured me just last night, Lauren, that I'm doing what I'm called to do. Seeing those folks that I met at 18 and 19 are now in their 30s and just doing well, and they want to give back because somebody in a role like mine gave to them. So I didn't think I was going to do this, Lauren, but I know I'm purposed and called to do this.
Good.
I would say, to answer your question, and Dr. Smalls, I feel like our stories might be a little bit reversed. Like I said, always thought I would be a teacher, but one of the things that has been profound is all of the things you can do in education that don't revolve around being in the classroom or doing them simultaneously, right? So here currently serving as an educational consultant, but I also teach high school math and learning algebra and advanced financial algebra and algebra 2, college readiness math, all of the things from doing these things in the classroom has also propelled my career to where now I get to travel to work with teachers. I had an opportunity recently to be in Tennessee, not too far from you in TSU, working for a
Yes,
nonprofit around uh, uh, I'm sorry, Nashville Freedom School Partnership. Had a
yes.
phenomenal summer there, loved it, served as their site coordinator, but just all the pathways that I've been able to travel as an educator, not just being in the classroom. So even if anyone is ever considering that as a career, just like what you said, Dr. Smalls, there are more avenues that we can travel and still fulfill our purpose. The work that I was able to do, especially this summer, taught me not only how to tap into my literary component. I hadn't did that in a while, but also how to teach kids about identity and agency and learning about culturally relevant things to the Black community. Imparting that knowledge with young people. I had never had an experience like that before, and really feel like had I not been in the classroom where I am currently, that opportunity would not have presented itself. So yes, teachers are, there's a shortage. That's the real deal in the classrooms right now. But just know that there are, when, just what you said, when you are in your purpose, when you're doing what you feel like God has really called you to do, like just get ready to move. Okay. Just have an okay posture about yourself and keep it moving, you know?
And I'd like to add, she has also been a district specialist. She was a teacher of the year, like her, second year, I think, in education, second or
It
third
was
year, maybe.
early.
It
It
is
was
very
early.
early.
Yeah.
She has a really extensive background, and it just kind of lends itself to this conversation that education can take you literally anywhere. Anywhere. She is a conference speaker. She is a trainer. All of these different things. You've been around the world, Dr. Small. Gigi has been around the world teaching in various capacities as well. So education can take us literally anywhere. G, did you want to jump in and respond to that also?
Yes, like Heather has said, Dr. Small has said, education is so broad, Lauren. I have always liked to see the light bulb go off. That has always been something that has been a part of me since a young age. And so I've always liked to explain and see the light bulb go off and get understanding, right? And so that's teaching in a component. And I didn't necessarily think about it as education. I thought about it as communication and sharing, which is what education is.
Yes.
And so I've always been a communicator. I've always liked to share. And that has opened the door to education on so many fronts, not only in regards to literacy and reading. I have kindergarten through second graders, but I'm an advisor for high school clubs, Key Club. And so empowering those high school students to serve, to get their community service hours, to give back to their communities, to apply for college. So education opens so many doors, and we impact so many different age groups. The thing for me with education is I have had some wonderful teachers. I remember some elementary school teachers that I still communicate with. I had a high school Spanish teacher that empowered me in a way that you wouldn't think a Spanish teacher, that subject matter would empower me. But because she believed in me, she encouraged me, that birthed even more a love for languages for me and the foreign service, and helped me become proficient in different things. So no, I didn't always think education, but I realized that I have always been an educator. It has always been on the inside of me. It's always been something that has been, like Dr. Small said, and like Heather said, part of our purpose
That's
in
good.
different capacities.
So good. So speaking of education, we're not going to leave Lauren out. Lauren recently had an honor in school that I wanted to highlight. So Lauren is not an educator, but she's taken her education very seriously. That's my girl. I'm proud of her. So Lauren, tell us really quickly what your honor was. Was it last week or the week before? Tell us what it was, Shook.
So my honor was I was student of the week. So yeah.
And
Congratulations, Lauren.
what did they highlight? Your what abilities?
They highlighted
Wasn't it leadership?
like what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
Highlighted what they saw about me, how I was helping people, how I was acting kind.
All right.
That's phenomenal, Lauren. A lot of times
Congratulations.
people don't think, they think about leadership as being the person out front with the loudest voice, but leadership also is all the things that you talked about, helping people, being kind to them. Those are all very, very important traits of leadership. So congratulations for making that happen, Lauren. I want to be like you when I grow up.
Thank you.
Afro and all. You want the afro too?
Listen, I tried. I would love to have the afro.
So we are very proud of you, Lauren. Lauren Nicole, that's
Yeah.
the girl. I want to kind of deviate because Wickley brought up a really good point. I want to know what's one teacher or educator, I think Toby kind of already hit on it, but who is one person that impacted you while you were in school? Give me a really good person that made a difference.
I have to start with my Aunt Janice. My Aunt Janice was a 30+ year teacher. She actually went to Knoxville College here, graduated, and taught in Palm Beach County schools. I'm a Florida boy, so taught in Palm Beach County schools for almost 3 decades. And she was one of my first teachers, right? So my maternal grandparents had 10 kids, and my Aunt Janice was the only one that got a bachelor's degree, and she went on to teach. And I think her exposing me to life outside of my small town. I'm from a town called Pahokee down in Florida, and her really exposing me to what the rest of the world is and exposing me to what was out there outside of my city was, I think, really really impactful in helping me become the person that I am today. And so um, she was a teacher, she's an educator, and she had high standards for all of her nieces and nephews about what we wanted to do in school. But as my aunt, she also did the other things that helped me understand that there was so much more than Pahokee. And once I realized that, y'all, I wanted a piece of it. And so part of the things that I did was because of my Aunt Janice. As I think about my teachers, I think in school, I mean, they all played such a significant role. Um, my kindergarten teacher recently passed away, but my first grade teacher, we were all friends on Facebook. So literally, like my first grade teacher, y'all, we're friends on Miss Julia Stevens. We're still friends on Facebook,
Wow.
and so there are people throughout my entire year from elementary through high school, and then some in college as well, who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Right. So these were people who said, "Hey, you can do it, you can make it, I believe in you." And it was those people that I think helped propel me to the next. Like every stop, somebody would give me a word of encouragement or encouragement to get me to the next level. That got me to the next level. That got me to the next level. And so, just all of my teachers and advisors and mentors have played such a significant role in my success.
That's
So I
good.
want to shout them all out. So all my teachers who ever had me in class, a little bit, I'm giving you a shout out right now.
That's good. That's good.
Nice.
I think for me, my first teacher was not an educator per se, was my father. My
Mhm.
father was the one that had the greatest impact um, on me in regards to the importance of education, the importance of doing well. So he was such a great influence on encouraging me in pursuing my education, even when I was younger and I was learning how to read and I was talking about those challenges I had in my younger years. He was just very encouraging and very present. And so through his encouragement and his presence, I felt like I could conquer the world, that I could learn anything, that I could master anything. And then after that, I had a third grade teacher in Dade County Public Schools, Miss Thelma Clark. She was tough as nails. And a second grade teacher, Miss Ferguson, they were tough as nails, old school as it comes, you know, but I remember them taking the extra time before school, especially Miss Ferguson, before school and after school, um, as I needed to learn and progress after that first grade, and ensuring that I was in the right classes and taking that time allowed me to grow and grasp. And so after that, I continued, just to do well. And I had some amazing teachers. It's like Dr. Small said throughout that time, Miss Freeman, she was like my physical science sixth grade teacher. Like I distinctly remember these teachers. And as I culminated high school, my Spanish teacher, Josefina Guerrero de Viñas, I remember. She was a young teacher. She had just graduated. She was an immigrant as well. And she went to FIU. She had graduated. She got her master's, but she was just so encouraging. And not only encouraging in regards to the Spanish language, but she was on me about school. And I had a lead magnet teacher. Her last name is Brown now. It was Miss Reeves, and she was the lead teacher and recruitment for Miami Core Park for the engineering magnet program. And she stayed on us. She made sure that we were going to do well. It wasn't, are you going to college? Or if you're going to college, it was, what school are you going to? Right. And what do we need to do to ensure you get there? So all of those teachers just made a great impact. And Miss Reeves, like Dr. Small says, we're still all friends with her on Facebook. She celebrates all the milestones, kids, graduations, doctoral degrees, and she's still with us today. And we have graduated quite a while ago, but she's still our biggest cheerleader to this day on the milestones that we have. And there's no way to replace that type of impact. So my dad being the first teacher, but within education, those names, and outside of education, I have been blessed with some awesome mentors and educators that have helped me to walk in my purpose.
Nice. Gigi, I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead, Nikki. I'm sorry.
I was
gonna add in thinking about our parents as being our first educators, right? Shout out to my mom. And I was just sharing with someone today. My mom would always say, "You could do anything you put your mind to." And even in my adult life, being able to see like just how those words have just manifested themselves, right? So if I want to do it, now I'm figuring out, okay, so who do I need to contact? What do I need to do? How do I go about doing these things? So definitely our parents are always our first loves and our first teachers, right? And then another area in education that sometimes gets overmissed is our guidance counselors. I know for me, the relationship that I had with my guidance counselors in middle school and high school, I felt really helped me to be seen. It was an outlet for just questions, concerns, things I didn't understand in the day, and just doing school, right? But they also were the ones that pushed you need to be in these courses. You need to go take this class. I remember being like the only freshman in a driver's ed class. And I was like, I have no business being in here, but I'm getting these licenses today, But it was through that relationship with my guidance counselor that we had throughout my entire schooling year. So high school career. So just really thankful for guidance counselors and the roles they play in our school building. And then lastly, her name is Miss Mingier. Miss Mingier was my geometry and my algebra 2 teacher. And in that class was the first time where math was kinesthetic. We did hand and arm gestures, equations made sense. We took copious notes, but I believe that's what drove my passion for mathematics. I can say that officially, my master's degree is in literacy. Don't use it right now, not at all, right? I am teaching math, sharing my expertise in mathematics, aspiring to do more things around math because I believe we need more mathematicians that look like us in places and spaces. And so that's my goal, that's my drive. But she inspired just a love for mathematics. I remember that being my only honors courses. I didn't want the English honors, those classes are boring. It just wasn't my jam, right? But I wanted to be in the math class where we're doing all of the things and the numbers were making sense for me. And she inspired that for me. So
That's good. So I'm just like you all. I have several educators that impacted me. I will say one that sticks out the most was my 11th grade year. Dean Ed Robinson. He was a dean at that time at Inglewood High School here in Florida in Jacksonville. And he was the person that helped me transition back into school when my mom passed. My mom passed on a Sunday, and he was like that soft landing for me to get back into school and to help me navigate all the questions that were, going to come, help me connect with my teachers and help them understand like she's grieving at this point, So having educators, not necessarily was he my teacher. He was an ESC teacher by profession. He was one of the people that I looked up to as far as being a special education educator as well. But what sticks out most to me was he was my track coach. He held me accountable. He did not play about me. He didn't play about me with the boys that tried to like me or whatever either. It was like, nah, almost like a daughter, And then that transition into, again, when my mom passed away, he just was my soft landing. I could go to him and I could just cry in his office and then get it out and go to class, So he was just a really pivotal part of my high school experience. Before that, Mr. Gundy, Reginald Leroy Gundy. I talk about Mr. Gundy very often because he was very pivotal. Again, almost like a father figure, holding me accountable. And it's not that my dad wasn't there. Like, my dad is one of my teachers too. He told me to call him Mr. History Man, So that's my dad. Well, my dad, but Mr. Gundy was like that person away from home. Again, accountability. And he called me by my last name. He was military. Anthony, you gonna be somebody. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay. But I knew that messing up and doing a lot of things that other people were doing wasn't really an option for me because I always had extra eyes. I had drive, I had tenacity, I was intelligent, I was all of these things, but I didn't need someone to tell me, like, do your work. That wasn't what I needed. But I did need that extra set of eyes to say, hey, you're not being who I know you're supposed to be. So that accountability for me. So thank you all for sharing that. Thank you for veering off with me. I do want to ask this question. So let's get into some technical stuff. What kind of communication skills are needed for your particular roles in this field of education? The reason I ask is because we live in the age of text talk, where kids talk like they text, and it's scary when you think about if they don't get this together, they're transitioning into the real world, into jobs and spaces, professional spaces, and they can't form sentences sometimes and all of this. So what kind of communication skills are necessary for your field and your line of work?
I think one of the greatest communication skills needed as an educator is the ability to listen, the ability to hear, and sometimes hear what's not being said. Let's use an example of you get a student who may be reading below level, and everybody assumes that, well, they just can't blend or they don't have fluency. And sometimes you have students who are good word callers. They can read, but they have no comprehension. And so they're able to blend and they're able to read, but they have no comprehension. And I think it's the same thing as an educator or someone in the education field. The ability to be able to listen, hear, but understand what you're hearing is very important, and so that our servant leaders, our student leaders, are able to communicate effectively. Because if you're not understanding and you're not hearing correctly, then you can't communicate effectively. I think a second skill that's very important is writing. In this age of talk to text, a lot of our students or adults don't type. You don't type. They're typos, misspelling, because you just speak into your cell phone or you can speak into the computer to write papers, to send emails. But being able to write, to effectively punctuate, to effectively use language appropriately is very important. And that's why it's important for our students and for us as adults to model it, to read, because as you're reading you begin to pick up patterns in language. You learn patterns of punctuation and different things. So I think those are two very important skills. Communication, being able to comprehend and listen and hear, but being able to write. And I think once you have those skills, if you're a good listener, for the most part you'll be able to communicate effectively and express yourself effectively with your thoughts and what you need. And I think that's very important, not only when dealing with our students, but dealing with our staff, dealing with our peers, communicating the vision of the organization or the vision and purpose of what you're called to do and what you're trying to do. And so those are some key components that I've found to be very important in my journey.
So good.
Yeah, I agree with everything Gigi said. Not much to add, except so my first 14 years here at the University of Tennessee, I worked in the business school, the Haslam College of Business, and part of my role was to help students get jobs, right? And everything Gigi said was absolutely spot on, because you have to be able, even if you get this stuff in the book and you understand it, you have to be able to articulate it to this person who is saying, shall I, what they're thinking in their mind is, if I hire this person, can they be a representative of my company or my organization, right? And if you can't articulate who you are and what you bring to the table and the value you will add to that organization or that company, then many times those were the students who didn't get an opportunity. But that comes, being able to articulate that comes through everything that Gigi said, right? Which is being able to listen and being able to write and being able to then articulate that back in a clear, concise manner. So that is super, super important. And then as a leader, I use this model of KTN, right? KTN. When I think about communicating and when I think about engaging, I often think about, is it kind? Is it truthful? And is it necessary? And those are the three things that I always think about, because sometimes you can be direct with the person. You can, let them know exactly how you feel, but still respect their humanity, right? So when I say being kind, doesn't mean you're not direct. It doesn't mean that, because I know some people who will read you up and down and sideways and have a smile on their face and never use and never use a curse word, and never challenges your humanity, right? The other thing is, are you telling the truth? All right, is this the truth, or are you trying to make something up or add your piece of it to make it sound more spicy, right? And so, or spicier. And so, is it truthful? And then, is it necessary? Sometimes the best things that are said are the things left unsaid, right? Do you have to respond to everything? Particularly y'all who on Facebook and social media, like, do you have to respond to everything that somebody says, right? So think about, like, is this necessary? Should I say this? Right? Do I need to come back? Right? Or I remember a colleague of mine who said who they made a mistake at work, right? I came in and this person was like, I just did this, I'm so sorry. And you know what I said? I said nothing. I was like, fine, let's keep it moving. I didn't have to tell her, don't do that again. I didn't have to tell her, be careful. Like, she already knew that. I didn't have to say a word. And sometimes the best thing that you can say is nothing at all. And so that's what I use as a leader in my communication style and how I approach communication. So that's the other part of that in terms of how I lead.
That is so good. I love that. I put it in the chat so y'all remember that. KTN, kind, truthful, and necessary. And again, like he said, especially in this election season, we do not have to respond to everything. We are not going to agree. And we don't have to agree on everything, but we can still be kind. We still can be truthful and honest with ourselves, and some things we don't have to say. It's okay. I love it. Heather?
No, just I agree with everything that's been said. I think in just in the classroom, I think one of the things that I'm doing is modeling the behavior I expect from my students. So something as simple as sending an email. Okay, don't send me, hey yo, Miss Coop. We're not doing that. Um, Here we go, students. This is the structure, this is the format, this is greeting, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I'm responding to. So setting a standard, setting the expectation, and then because our classroom is all based around mathematics, I think one of the things that students struggle with is the idea of their confidence, right? So asking something that I say a lot is ask for what you need. So teaching students how to advocate for themselves is a communication style that is necessary, but they have to learn it. So in moments where you're struggling and this is difficult, let's pause. I believe in a productive struggle. So you're going to have some grapple time. Now, after this grapple time, let's talk about where we are. Do I need more time? Have I looked at my notes? Is it, I know this step, but I can't get to the next step. So giving my students the language to use so that they can then in turn learn how to advocate for themselves. Cooper, I understand this part. I'm stuck here. Can you help me? Or can you show me where I'm missing a step? So that we can not just rely on our emotions. I see you're frustrated. Now let's talk through where we are. And then as an educator, providing that necessary wait time. And I will wait.
Miss Cooper, Miss
Yes.
Cooper. So this idea of self advocacy, I love, but many times our kids are taught to be seen and not heard,
Mhm.
not to talk, but right, and so it almost sometimes runs counterintuitive to what environment we set for our students. But it's so important that they advocate for themselves, and and so how do you balance that as an educator where some of this don't question, but I don't understand, I need help, but they've been taught sometimes not to question authority, not to question his teacher,
Mhm.
sit and not and be seen and not heard. So how does that how do you balance that?
Ooh, that's a great question, Dr. Smalls. And I think one of the things from the adult in the room, from that
Mhm,
perspective, it's the one not take things personally, right? If a
mhm,
student is visibly upset, if there is an air of something, a misunderstanding, whatever, to not take that personally, but to
mhm.
also redirect, correct, and then allow space to move forward. So an example of that may be, um, man, I don't get this. And frustration shut down. It's like, hold on, let's pause. Let's talk about what we don't get. And let's
Mhm.
talk about how we go about that. I am here to help and support. So reiterating my purpose in the classroom, and also I always say this too, I'm not mad at you. I'm never upset.
Right,
This
right.
isn't, we're not upset. I'm not upset with you, but I'm going to teach you how to do things tactfully. I feel like the art of tact is dying with this generation, especially when you said earlier, like, well, I'm just going to say it is what it is. I'm going to say how I feel and things like that. No, we're not. We're going to create a community of respect. And that's the expectation. I respect my students even when they're
Mm,
disrespectful, right? Because
mm,
I'm going to show you how to do what I'm expecting. So we will correct and then redirect and then get to where we need to be in those spaces. I do feel like oftentimes, like you said, kids are to be seen and not heard. In mathematics, I feel like our girls really fall into this space where they don't say
um,
anything, they sit quietly. And so
right.
the intentionality of um, allowing them opportunities to just share their knowledge, or you work this problem out, or you teach. I like to do that in the class. Okay, who's the teacher today when we're going over a problem, and give them an opportunity to speak up. um, but to go back to your question, I'm sorry for rambling. I think
This is good.
as adults we have to give students, children, scholars an opportunity to be heard. When they are heard, they feel as though their voices matter and that they are contributing to the environment. When I think about this, my uncle Bubba, Dr. Aaron's father, is one of the adults in my life at an early age that I believe always heard me. And he would say, wow, okay, Heather, I hear what you're saying. So this is how he did, and he would repeat the steps. And it wasn't that it was something major or magnificent, but it was just, I know my uncle, I can go to my uncle because he hears me. And not only does he hear me, but he talks to me and not at me. Our babies are constantly given information and not really shared or instructed on how to process it or really think about it. So I'm teaching the thinking about the thinking. Metacognition is showing up every single day. And so it's multifaceted. It's in the classroom. Oftentimes teachers are building the plane while we fly it, right? I'm trying to teach the curriculum. I'm also thinking about the social emotional health of my classroom while bridging the community and making sure that everyone feels heard and seen and all the things. And so allowing a space for just to be seen and to be heard and to be validated in that way. I try my best. I don't get it right every day, but it is an honest effort to meet my students there.
Thank you so much. That was real helpful. Thank you.
Gigi, you're on
Gigi,
mute.
you're on mute.
Because I deal with younger students, I agree with everything that Heather said, but we try to teach them that at a young age. Our students are really told, do what I tell you to do. Don't ask me any questions. And so they don't learn to advocate for themselves, but they also don't learn how to regulate their emotions. Because when you shut them down, all they do is they suppress and they keep that anger or that frustration or that confusion. And so what we've done is we have infused within our literacy curriculum, social and emotional learning, which is like character, life skills, resiliency. And so I might have a student that's really upset. And someone might say, oh, well, she's angry. No, she's behaving as if she's angry. And so I might say, well, Gigi, what's going on? And they may say, well, Nikki didn't want to play with me today. Oh, she didn't? No, and I'm angry. And I said, you're angry? Why are you angry? Because Nikki didn't want to play with me. So are you angry or are you hurt? And then they were like, well, I'm hurt. Are you physically hurt? No, but my feelings are hurt. Why are your feelings hurt? My feelings are hurt because I consider Nikki a friend and Nikki didn't want to play with me. Then I, in turn, and say, when we do training with our staff, that we say to that student, it's okay that Nikki didn't want to play with you today because Nikki may not want to play with you every day. You're still special. You're still unique. And Nikki has the right to set that boundary. Now, what you have to do is allow Nikki to have that space and find another friend to play with, or go ahead and go on the rack and pick out a literacy game. And you can also play with yourself, right? Do you need a moment to gather yourself is a question that we ask them. So they might go sit in the corner. The corner is not a naughty corner. It's beautiful. It's colorful. It has books. It has different things. And it's just a way that the student can know that I can step back and I can catch myself in the moment, which was something that an older young lady said in one of the classes that was check yourself in the moment. And so allowing them to check themselves, allowing them to express themselves, and then saying to them, okay, once you gather yourself, reintroduce yourself into the group. I've processed my emotions. I've been able to explain how I feel. And now I want to walk back over to my station and say, hey, Miss Cooper, I needed a moment to gather myself. May I join the group back again? And so not only have we taught them in this moment to advocate for themselves, we've taught them to identify their feelings, we've taught them to check themselves in the moment, and we've taught them to healthily reintroduce themselves into an environment.
So good.
Life skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
So good.
Starting in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so we don't have, I have to be honest, we don't have a plethora of behavioral problems within our agency because we consistently teach these students how to do that. Now, what we also do is we host parent workshops so that we can let the parents know and teach the parents what we're teaching their students. So at home, they can integrate this. And so parents now can in a positive way interact with their students. You have parents, they come for pickup, and they may have had a long day. I'm not sure what they've gone through. But when they come and pick up Nikki, they're, your shirt this is not how I, no. When you first pick up that child is excited to see you. How was your day? Learning just how to communicate and set aside frustrations, because we're all dealing with life, right? And so it is, in education, it's not only about the student. We as educators, as nonprofit leaders, as leaders, also have to empower the parents, the grandparents, the caregivers, so that there is a healthy place of communication. Because the breakdown has not sometimes been education. The breakdown has been that we do not communicate in a positive and in a healthy way.
That's so good. So I want to piggyback, and we're about to wrap it up on something that kind of all of you have lent yourselves to. This idea that behavior is the language of an unmet need. And a lot of times the parents are coming in and they're communicating that behavior reflects that communication that they have reflects behaviors, which reflects a need also, so I love that you're talking about empowering parents to know how to do what I do in the classroom. Before I was ever a nonprofit leader, I used to do stuff like this that we're doing now in the classroom. I taught my parents on a Tuesday night. I would order pizza or whatever, and we would go through strategies. We would go through what I'm doing in the classroom so that you know how to do it, because you're seeing the results, right? And if you're seeing the results, I want you to continue the results. I don't want them to come in here and I got to rebuild and reteach and redo and all that because they're unlearning when they go home. No, let's work together. This is a partnership. So we got to work together. So let me show you what I'm doing, and you tell me some things that you're doing, because it's not just me as the behavior specialist. No, this is your child. You tell me some things that you do. Let's work together and let's get this kid to where they're supposed to be. So I love that. And keep it in mind that behavior is the language of an unmet need a lot of times. And that's what any of us sitting on this panel, anyone watching, anyone, anywhere, whatever our behavior is saying is telling and communicating that there's something else behind that behavior. Think of an iceberg. You're going to see the top of the iceberg first. You're going to see the behavior, but there's so much more that's going on below the surface. So keep that in mind, that's another form of communication as well. Behavior is. So what is your child's behavior communicating? What is your behavior communicating to your child? And this is from TBRI. We have sessions, y'all. Y'all can join us. I got to do a plug, shameless plug. So yes, but we have to actually wrap it up. So I want to give you guys, we got 2 minutes before 8 o'clock. I want to give you space to tell what you're doing. If parents and families can connect with you, if people want to check out your work, how can they find you? Tell them all of that. So I'll give each of you about 45 seconds to go through. We'll start with Heather, then Gigi, then Dr. Small, and I will close us out.
All right. So right now, I am serving not only as a tutor for Heather's Educational Services, LLC. I am offering tutoring services K-12, mathematics, ELA. I also serve as the liaison for Little Hands Big Hearts nonprofit as well. So providing tutoring services with Dr. Aaron's, Dr. Nikki's nonprofit, as well as partnering with Nashville Freedom School Partnership. We're looking forward to Freedom School 2025 this summer taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm super excited about that work, as well as continuing with my work with Turner County Public Schools. Super excited about my kiddos this year and the work that we're doing in algebra and advanced financial algebra, which has been an amazing course for high school seniors. So I'm looking forward to all that's to come. Future speaking engagements coming too, but right now I'm just focused on my babies, to be honest.
So you got a shout out from Nashville Freedom Schools. They say they love you. I guess you are right with the people.
I mean, I love those. Shout out to Dr. Danica Moore and Ashaya Swan, excuse me. Those are my people. I love those ladies so much. You have no idea. Just great, great, great women to work with and to work under. I'm telling y'all this, National Freedom School has changed my life. So that was an amazing experience, and I can't wait to do it again this summer. Okay, I'm done.
Yes, Dr. Danica, you might want to see if you can contact Dr. Tyvee Small since y'all are in the same region in Tennessee. All right, Gigi.
Shout out, love East. So my wife is on the board of East Tennessee Freedom Schools.
Oh
So
my,
we've been a partner with Freedom Schools at the University of Tennessee for 5 or 6 years. So absolutely, I agree. Love Freedom School. Great organization.
go. All right, Gigi.
I am currently expanding PCAT Literacy, which stands for Parents and Children Advance Together Literacy Ministries. And so we're expanding and planning to expand within Hillsborough County public school system. We are enjoying that. We are enjoying the growth that we are seeing in our students and in our staff as we continue to train and empower the next set of world changers, right? We're changing lives one student at a time. I am the founder of and journey leader of Breathe One International. We are a group that services families across the world, and through education, funny enough, we go in and you can teach a man how to fish or you can give him fish. And so we have decided to teach them how to fish, to teach them the word of God, to keep families together. That is one of our largest components, is that to keep the family unit together and to empower them to advance together. And so through Breathe One, we empower families, business owners. We have a women's business owner program where they go through a business development class, and at the end, we sow into them, and they, in turn, in the next cohort, have to sow into someone else and mentor someone else. We also have classes that we teach. Dr. Anthony has been such a blessing in coming in and sharing with our ladies, trauma informed, and so many other things. Her word has been rich, and she has really impacted the ladies in the class. And so we have different cohorts that we open, small cohorts, and we deal with ministry leaders and business leaders through those classes. I also have Moines Enterprises, which is my consulting firm and Wilfro Service consulting firm and textile distributor. And along with that, I advise Key Club, Kiwanis, a whole bunch of things. Blessed to be an assistant pastor at Jesus People Family Worship Center, where Dr. Aaron and I met, Dr. Nikki and I met some 20 years ago. And so still there and working within that ministry. And so a lot of different hats, but all connected to the purpose that God has for me.
That's awesome.
I'll share two things and I'll be brief no matter how long it takes. So I'm just kidding. So first thing is, for those of you particularly in Tennessee, we just opened this new office of flagship communities at the University of Tennessee. We're going to be doing a lot of K-8 outreach. We're hiring folks in Nashville, East Tennessee, and in Memphis. We have two openings in Memphis, one in Nashville that we just filled, and one in East Tennessee that we're looking to fill. So as we think about creating pathways and pipelines for historically underserved communities to access higher ed, UT is in that space. We're working it. And students who go to these 52 flagship schools across the state of Tennessee, along with the Hope Scholarship, you will get full tuition and fees covered for 4 years at Tennessee. So I'm really excited about what we're doing in that space. So those of you who are in Tennessee, check out our website and look at flagship communities. The second thing that I'm excited about, Nikki, I'll make this really brief, is the work that we're doing globally. So in the last 7 or 8 weeks, I've been to Rwanda, South Africa, and Japan. And what we're trying to do is to really have our students to think about themselves as global leaders. Nikki, and when you read your mission statement, it actually read like the mission statement for what we're doing. Our 4 pillars of leadership, service, culture, and community, and really trying to create space and place for our students to think about themselves as global leaders and as global scholars, and helping understand that there's more that unites us than it is that divides us. And so the work that we're doing across the continent now, well, really across the world, I think is really building up our particularly our Black and brown students to be able to think about themselves in a way that helps us solve the most pressing challenging issues across the globe. And so I'm really excited about the work we're doing in that global space. So at some point, y'all got to join us in either Rwanda, Japan, or South Africa. But that's the work that we're doing. I'm
Nothing
excited
but a
about.
word, because who will hop on a plane to go to Africa? One Dr. Nikki. Hey. So I want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to Carmisha Sanford. Carmisha was going to be one of our panelists to join us, but she is actually in Japan. And so the time difference wouldn't allow her to be on tonight. And so she sent us a video. And if you will check that out, subscribe to her YouTube. But she kind of talks about her day as an ALT, which is an assistant language teacher in Japan. She actually was in Totally Small World. So Carmisha is my cousin, but she knew Dr. Small in undergrad. She actually went to UT for a while. And so it was just kind of like a small world. She was like, Nikki, you know, Mr. Small. He was Mr. Small at that time. You know, Mr. Small. I'm like, yeah, we went to undergrad together. And she's like, girl, he's at my school. He is the bomb. He is da 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 da. And so just a small world, and again reiterating how education can literally take you anywhere. She is doing an excellent job in Japan. I was watching some of her YouTube videos and just enamored. Like, she's speaking in Japanese, telling you how to use your iPhone and the right kind of language translators and all kinds of things, and just doing an excellent job raising a family there, being a wife, a mom, a teacher, and this socialite, this burgeoning socialite in a whole different culture. So I'm so proud of her. Y'all check out her video. And yes, we will definitely get on that Rwanda, because that's actually one of the places I want to get to. Tanzania as well, all East Africa. So you ain't said nothing but a word, my friend. You ain't said nothing but a word.
Let's make it happen.
I know that's right. Lauren, how can people find you? What are you doing?
Just school.
Okay. That's good.
And my family has a YouTube channel.
Okay. What's the handle, really quickly? What's the handle for it?
What's that mean?
Okay. Y'all can send it to me later. We'll post it, okay? All right. So I want to say thank you to everyone who has joined. Thank you for the comments. People really enjoyed the panelists, and I really enjoyed you all. Thank you so much for sharing and all that you bring to the table. I would like for you all to please send me how people can get in contact with you, because I would like to post it, whatever your LinkedIn is or emails or whatever. And the initiatives that you have going on, so that if they're interested or they want to connect with you, we want to make sure that they can do that easily and connect with you. All right. For our audience, I want to say, if you are local, these are some of the things we have coming up. We got a college tour at FAMU coming up. This is for our cohort, our Future Forward Servant Leadership Development cohort that we just started. I'm super proud of that. We have some serve days coming up. We got a Jaguars game coming up, and we would love for you to be a part. But the ground base for all of that is service. So if you're not coming to serve with us, then you're not going to college with us, because I'm sure Dr. Small can reiterate, they're looking for people who are service minded, people who will be contributors to the global market, in the world at large. So if that is your plan to matriculate into higher education, it starts with service, I promise. So that said, thank y'all for joining us tonight, and we'll be back next month with a new segment 2, and I believe the focus is business. I'll get that information out to y'all. So y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night, you all. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.